As we kick off a new year, we begin with the new legislative session in the City Council.
We announced 36 members today, and we're really thrilled about the diverse, broad-based coalition across every single borough.
Yeah, that's Manhattan City Councilmember Julie Menin. She says she's locked in enough votes to become the next speaker, meaning she will set priorities and control the agenda for the council's 51 members. She tells us how she plans to work with the Mamdani administration, and political observers are waiting to see how the city's first Jewish speaker collaborates with the first Muslim mayor. Julie Menin joins us in studio in a few moments. But first, a closer look at her long career in public service, from chairing a community board to commissioner of several city agencies. Menin says she's ready for this moment. Here's Ayanna Harry.
There's a real sense of urgency about the issues ahead.
Julie Menin is poised to step into one of the most powerful roles in local government, declaring she now has the support to become the next city council speaker. For Menin, it's the latest chapter in a long career serving New Yorkers.
My business was destroyed on 9/11. That's how I first got involved in public service.
The daughter and granddaughter of Holocaust survivors and a wife and mom to four, Menin began her career as a regulatory attorney. In 2000, she opened a restaurant in Tribeca, and when the September 11th terror attacks transformed the neighborhood, Menin launched a nonprofit to help local businesses, Wall Street Rising. Next, she became chair of Community Board 1, where Menin is credited with supporting the community's comeback.
We're going to have 5 million visitors a year coming to the Ground Zero Memorial when it opens. What does that mean for Lower Manhattan?
During her time as community board chair, Menin navigated several tense, high-profile issues, including anger over a proposed Islamic community center and mosque near Ground Zero, Park 51. Menin fought to keep the prosecution of 9/11 suspects out of Lower Manhattan.
Have a federal court trial, but have it at a military installation.
And during Occupy Wall Street protests, Menin managed relations between local residents, businesses, and demonstrators.
We've met with the protesters now 3 times, and we've negotiated an agreement with them to stop the drumming at 10 p.m.
After a failed run for Manhattan Borough President in 2013, Menin later joined the de Blasio administration, first serving as commissioner for the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Julie does nothing lightly.
Next, she became the city's media and entertainment commissioner and brought the Grammy Awards back to New York City. And for her next act, Menin was named the city's 2020 census director, undertaking a count of city residents during the height of the pandemic.
The Trump administration tried to add the citizenship question. They tried to defund New York. They tried to have us lose not only funding, but political representation. We're fighting back.
Representing the Upper East Side and Roosevelt Island as a Democrat in the city council since 2022, Menin's built a career as a moderate voice and would make history as the first Jewish speaker of the city council. While Menin has been described as someone who can serve as a check on the Mamdani administration, Menin told New York One her focus as council speaker would include
The affordability agenda. We need to build more affordable housing, clearly doing universal childcare.
That's Ayanna Harry reporting for us on this Sunday, and we're pleased to welcome Julie Menin. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Cheryl. Thanks so much for having me.
You have been on this program many times over the years, and your career is so impressive. Thanks for being here for our first show of 2026.
Thank you.
And we're glad you can stay for the entire program. We have a lot of ground to cover. And we should note that members of the City Council are going to officially vote for Speaker on Wednesday, and you are the presumptive Speaker. So I think I want to start with the most important affordability issue, which is universal child care. That's something you've been talking about. That's something Mayor Mamdani campaigned on. How do you plan to work with the mayor on universal child care?
Well, first of all, Cheryl, thanks again for having me on this show. There is tremendous alignment around universal childcare. In 2022, the New York City passed a package of bills to put New York City on a path to universal childcare. I had 5 bills in that package. It was supposed to ensure that within 5 years, New York City got to universal childcare. Unfortunately, those bills were not fully implemented by the Adams administration. And so now we have an opportunity, and I would argue an obligation, to provide universal childcare, because look, the fact of the matter is childcare costs most parents around $21,000 a year. It's simply unaffordable and inaccessible for the vast majority of New Yorkers. And it also has an economic cost as well. About 300,000 parents left the workforce last year because they couldn't afford childcare. That costs the city around $2.2 billion in lost economic output. So childcare is not only the right thing to do, it's also the fiscally prudent thing to do as well.
But it also has a big price tag, universal childcare.
It does.
Somewhere around $5 billion. Give us a sense of where that money would come from.
Sure, a couple different things. If we provide 2 Care for All, which is care for 2-year-olds, the price tag of that is about $1.3 billion. As I said, there are cost savings to providing childcare, because then we will get more parents in the workforce. What I'm interested in doing is finding areas of savings within the New York City budget. I came on this show last year to talk about the Office of Healthcare Accountability, which my bill created. There's about a $2 billion a year savings within that new office to lower the cost of healthcare that New York City government is paying to pay for the coverage of the over 300,000 public sector workers. So there's an area of savings, but there are other areas as well. No bid contracts. Right now, the administration, and this has happened in every administration going back in time, has utilized no bid contracts. The problem with that, Cheryl, is it jacks up the price. So why did it cost us as $4 billion a year to cover the cost for asylum seekers? Well, because we were using no bid contracts. We can't do that. So I really think, again, there are creative ways to save money in the city budget. And of course, we need to look to Albany to do the right thing and to help us in terms of enacting universal childcare. And I look forward to working with the mayor.
Are you also looking forward to working with the mayor on freezing the rent?
So freezing the rent, look, the cost of rent is too high for the vast majority of New Yorkers. The city council does not have appointees to the rent guidelines board, so that's not something that we control. But what we do control is making sure that we're building more affordable housing. So the land use decisions, ULURPs for lack of a better word, that is where we are the final say and the final stop. And one of the things that I would like the next iteration of the council to do is not just wait till ULURP comes to us. Let's be proactive. Let's look, for example, at the 215 public library branches in the New York City where we can build on top of many of those branches affordable housing. Or the city owns over 1,000 city-owned buildings or vacant parcels of land. We can look to those properties to build affordable housing. So that's where I think we can be value added in lowering the rent, because lowering the rent means building more affordable housing. So we're increasing the supply, because we know the demand is very high, but the supply is very low. So we have an obligation and an opportunity as a city council to help to lower the rent with the areas that we really control.
And let's talk about another issue that Mayor Mamdani campaigned on, those city-run grocery stores. Would that have to get approval from the city council as well?
No, it does not. It doesn't need city council legislation for him to move forward on that. He can absolutely do that by executive order or through sort of agency action. And so I think one of the things that I've run 3 city agencies, one of the things that I think I can bring to the table as a partner in government is those areas. There are certain areas that will fall to our purview, but that is not one of them.
That's not one of them. Is this one of them? The mayor wants to create a Department of Community Safety. I believe that you guys would have jurisdiction over that, right?
So we've started those conversations. Look, again, much of that can be handled through executive order. Mayors have the ability to create new mayor's offices. So for example, I was commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. Again, agencies like that, new agencies in city government, can be created by executive order. So that's going to be a conversation. I look forward to having that conversation as we get more in the weeds, and also look forward to having that conversation with my colleagues to see what their priorities are.
Absolutely. And, you know, we're going to come back after the break and talk about how you are poised to make history as the City Council's first Jewish speaker, something you're very proud of, and so many New Yorkers are proud of that. So we're going to take a break. We'll continue our discussion with Councilmember Julie Menin right after this.
I'm a former small business owner, I'm a former restaurant owner, and so speaking to these small businesses in the Bronx, I really understand firsthand how difficult it is to own a small business.
Yeah, thanks for staying with us. Julie Menin is on track to become the next Speaker of the City Council, and she's back with us. As you said, you're a former restaurant owner, and this affordability crisis is really hurting entrepreneurs, as you well know. Once you take over leadership of the City Council, how will you help?
Well, one of the best ways to help is to make it easier to own and operate a small business in New York City. It's very difficult, and I say that as a former small business owner. When I served as Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs, we launched a reform package to lower fines on small businesses. So we instituted 25 reforms that cut fines by 1/3 on small businesses, because before we got there, small businesses were being assessed with thousands of dollars in fines because one word in a sign was incorrect, and that's ridiculous. And so I would like us to take that fine assessing strategy to every fine assessing agency, so Department of Buildings, FDNY, DP. Not, of course, when there's a safety issue, because obviously if there's a consumer protection or a public safety issue, we're not going to be lowering fines. That affects the safety of the public. But if it's a small violation, we should be giving small businesses 30 days to cure the violation, so that we're working with small businesses to make it easier for them to operate. And then also we want to cut through red tape and bureaucracy for so many of these small businesses. We passed a bill in the City Council. I had a bill to create a one-stop shop portal for all small business permits and licenses. It was somewhat implemented by the administration, not fully. So I'd like to see a full implementation of that, so that, again, we're not making small businesses go to an alphabet soup of agencies, from agency to agency to agency, and having to take off multiple days of work, for example, to interact with government agencies. That's absurd. We shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, and I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about how you're poised to make history as the first Jewish Speaker of the City Council. These are tough times for the Jewish community. They're under attack, not just in the city, but all over the world. How do you plan to ensure the safety of the Jewish community in New York City?
Well, it's very important. Look, I'm the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. My mother and grandmother survived the Holocaust in Hungary. My grandfather was killed in the Holocaust just because he was born Jewish. And so we need to ensure the safety of the Jewish community and every single community in New York City. It's a very difficult time for the Jewish community. The hate crimes are soaring. They are through the roof. And so we need to, first of all, protect houses of worship. What happened recently at Park East Synagogue, where the entrance to the synagogue was really being blocked, and so people couldn't even freely worship. We can't have that. There should be a safe perimeter around any house of worship. So of course you respect the right, the First Amendment right to peacefully protest. That's sacrosanct, but it shouldn't impede anyone's ability to worship. I'm someone who has tried to bring communities together. After 9/11, I chaired the community board in Lower Manhattan for 7 years. I stood up for the Islamic Cultural Center and Mosque. I wrote that resolution, got that project through the community board to stand up for freedom of religion. This is a very difficult time for the Jewish community. And I think having the first Muslim mayor, the first Jewish speaker, this is a time to come together collectively. And so that's something that I would be very focused on.
I want to quickly touch on, you're going to continue the leadership of a women majority city council.
Yes.
I remember the days, it wasn't that long ago, when activists fought hard to get the majority on this very show. It was still male dominated when In Focus started. How do you plan to continue to nurture the women on the council and keep the door open for the next generation of political female leaders?
It's such a great point, Cheryl, and it's incredible to have this woman majority council. I'm co-chair of the Women's Caucus. I'm incredibly proud of that. We have so many mothers on the council. We are going to be providing a child care facility for members, because so many members who have new children and then they are trying to vote, they're trying to bring their baby to work, it can be challenging. We want to encourage more women to run for office. All the studies show, and I helped to create something almost 20 years ago called She Should Run, that has trained about 12,000 women across the country to run for office. Studies show that women elected officials are very focused on consensus building, on bringing people together, solution-oriented. So we do want to, of course, encourage more women to run for office. And it's incredibly exciting that we have this women majority. About a decade ago, there were only 11 women in the city council. In this new incoming class, we're at 32. 32. So it's amazing.
A hard-fought 32.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, we're so glad you can stay with us. We're going to talk about the census, something that you have been on this show talking about for years, and you're still beating the drum about the census. So we're going to take another break. In Focus continues right after this.
And now, a flashback from our New York One archives. February 5th, 2012, 13 years ago, Big Blue makes it to the big game again.
Super Bowl 46. Now.
The New York Giants and the New England Patriots at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indiana. Quarterbacks Eli Manning and Tom Brady on the gridiron. More than half the country watched the Northeast matchup. Smart money was on New England, but
the Giants have won the Super Bowl.
There's nothing that beats being in New York. For the Giants to win the Super Bowl, this is an amazing time.
You're the MVP. Congratulations.
Eli Manning named MVP. By the way, the Giants have won 4 Super Bowls: 1987, 1991, 2008, and this bright shining moment in 2012.
I appreciated what Councilmember Menin shared the other day, which is a excitement at fulfilling the shared agenda of affordability. And that's something that I look forward to do. We are speaking about a co-equal branch of government and also a branch that represents the same set of New Yorkers that I do.
That's, of course, Mayor Mamdani talking last month about news that Julie Menin has locked up enough votes to be the next Speaker of the City Council. The big vote is on Wednesday, and Julie Menin is back here with us. One of your passion projects is the census. You served as director of Census for NYC, and your census bill passed in December. Tell us what that bill seeks to do.
So the bill that we passed creates a permanent city office of the census. And the reason, Cheryl, that that's so important is I was a 2020 census director, and we were really in a very challenging situation. The Trump administration had put a question on the census that hadn't been asked in 70 years. Are you a U.S. citizen? We sued, and I served in a senior role at the law department and worked on that case. We successfully, with our great New York Attorney General, sued the Trump administration and won that case. But we were in a very challenging situation on the census because COVID hit. We were the epicenter of COVID. And because the citizenship question had been out there in the ether, many immigrants and many undocumented individuals in the city of New York were rightly so nervous to fill the census out. So we had to counteract that. We did 36 media campaigns in 27 different languages. We sent 7 million texts. We phone banked. We really did tremendous outreach. And as a result, we finished #1 of all cities across the country, meaning we are receiving our fair share of federal dollars for over 300 programs that New Yorkers rely on. This new bill creating the permanent office of the census ensures that in 2030 and in every decade that we are organizing to ensure that every single New Yorker is counted. And with what is happening with the Trump administration and the ICE raids, this is going to be more important than ever.
Yeah, it looks like these ICE raids will continue into this new year. As the projected leader of the City Council, How will you protect the city's immigrant population?
This is a terrible time for the immigrant community. It's unacceptable what the Trump administration is doing and what the City Council is doing, and what we will continue to do is Know Your Rights campaigns. We are going to work with not-for-profit organizations all across the city of New York to ensure New Yorkers that we will work to keep them safe. The idea that people are going to immigration court and literally being taken is completely and wholly unacceptable. And we will continue to stand up with immigrant communities across New York City to ensure their safety.
Once you're elected on Wednesday by your colleagues, you set the agenda. That's what the speaker does, right? So what's at the top of your agenda, especially as it relates to the affordability crisis?
The top of the agenda is building more affordable housing, because right now we have a situation where people are leaving the city because of the lack of affordability. The average rent in Manhattan, for example, is over $5,000 a month. It's wholly unacceptable. We need to build more affordable housing, and we need to be creative about doing so. We need to be utilizing our city-owned assets in every single council district across the city of New York to be a partner in building more affordable housing. We can't just be reactive and wait till these land use ULURPs come to us. We have to be proactive about putting out our own affirmative vision to build more affordable housing. And so that's something that would be top of mind. Also, lowering skyrocketing healthcare costs. I talked about the Office of Healthcare Accountability, but medical debt is a leading cause of debt for New Yorkers. We must lower these costs because every single New Yorker, unfortunately, faces a health crisis at one point or another in their lifetime.
Okay, well, Happy New Year again. Thank you for being our first guest of the year. We wish you the best and good luck with the election on Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Happy New Year. Thanks again for having me.
Always a pleasure. Manhattan Councilmember Julie Menin, thanks again.